Yeah, I think I'll start because it takes a while and then we can start. So I think we'll get started. I'm sure others will come, but we can get going already.
Oh, actually, I have one of these right now.
Oh, good. Be nice to see a tree.
Okay, welcome. Glad you could come this afternoon. I'm sure this will be an informative afternoon. My name is Deborah Marks, and I am president of SUFA, and that's Sunnyvale Urban Forest Advocates, and I'll be the host for today. I'd like to tell you a little story as my intro to Leonard's talk. Last week we had the State of the City event, and SUFA was there. We went at 9 o'clock and all the tables were set up, and they had the canopy and tablecloths on the tables. So we put our materials out, we hung our banner up, and talked to many people. After a while I thought, oh, I'll take a break, just have a coffee, and I was sitting there, kind of, my thoughts were elsewhere. And a woman walks by and she says, looking at me, well, where's the forest in Sunnyvale? And I was kind of half daydreaming, and I'm thinking, yeah, where is the forest? I don't know. And then I'm thinking, oh no, it's the urban forest. So I told her what that was, and I think today Leonard will explain that very well, what it means for an urban forest. Leonard is somewhat of a treasure in Sunnyvale. He's been with us 29 years now, taking care of our trees. He is presently the urban landscape manager and was instrumental in initiating and promoting the urban forest management plan. It was passed in 2014 unanimously by the City Council. Before we start, I'd like to just ask you to turn off your phones so they don't disturb Leonard while he's talking. And Leonard will talk about 25 minutes, and there will be time for questions pertaining to his topic. If you do have any questions about a particular tree, for example, on your property, they would come after we've answered the general questions. At 3:50, we'll take a 10-minute break, and then at 4 p.m. the candidate forum starts. So I will turn you over to Leonard then.
Treasure, Lord. I've just been here a long time. I've just been here a long time, so. Now, I was told I'm supposed to be on that camera some fashion, so, but I don't just, the best place to be on camera is right here. Well, that, I don't know if that works out that well, so I think I'm going to be part on camera here now. This presentation, I have to admit, it wasn't mine, particularly because the U.S. Forest Service actually created it. They had some sponsorship with the California Urban Landscape Council and in sponsoring this, and so that it's a general one to educate people on the benefits of trees. And a lot of people don't really think about it. Most people think about trees and they're just there. I consider people being tree blind. You don't even think about trees. They're just there. And they do quite a bit for us. And they're aesthetic. In our general plan here in Sunnyvale, they're relegated to be an aesthetic component. That's the only thing that's listed in. In other ordinances, it does mention other things that trees do, but as far as in the general plan, why do we have trees? It's just to make the town look pretty. Unfortunately, I think that is this statement. My topic, why trees? Why are they important to us? What do they do for us? So I'm starting here. The trees are worth our time, worth our resources. They're part of the community infrastructure. We've had trees in cities for a long time. I think humans just do it. They just bring them in from wherever they were when they create cities. It's a treeless city. Even in New York City. Believe it or not, New York City is supposed to have like a 36% canopy cover. It's not even has 18%. So now, canopy cover Central Park might be a big chunk, it might be almost 100% canopy cover, so it'd be a different story. But when it comes to New York City, there's a lot of places just bare concrete and big buildings. But it is part of our community, it makes it a livable place. Vital community health is one thing, a little bit of a thing we'll discuss about. The legacy, trees take a while to grow, so have to be mindful on when you do redevelopment, you take them out, you leave them in, what do you do, how do you preserve and protect them? It takes a while for them to be, to get to their performing level to do the services they provide us. Positive impact on business, a lot of people don't think about that. There was research on that, I didn't think about it until I saw the research on it. It's probably been out about 20 years now, that there trees in the business districts do promote more business. People are willing to go to those areas and shop there where there's more trees in the area than a treeless shopping area. And when it comes to dollars and cents, it's a wise investment. Now I stuck this in here, this wasn't in the slide set, I made my own in here to say, because I'm talking about climate change, global warming. There are those nationally, not about internationally, but nationally, that kind of think climate change is a hoax. I don't think that's the case, and even if there is climate change, somehow man is not responsible for it. So I just stuck this in here. I have a URL of the site that I got the data from here, so if nobody wants to go check my facts in here. But, and I'm not going back to year one when we had, when the humans first came on the planet, but starting in 1700, there are, 583,000 people on the planet. So it's pretty thin. It's the 1700s. We had them isolated. We had them in Europe. We had them in China, whatever. In America, not much. By 1800, the population had doubled. We finally got to the millions, and so we start pumping up the the population over the years, and we're going to be at a significant amount. The population jumps significantly. We end up having the population double in 200 years, but then it doubles again in only 60, doubles again in only 39, so by 1999 we're up to 6 billion, and then with population today, and the forecast they had on the little chart how far it is, right now we're at 7.675 billion people on the planet. So people do have an impact on the planet when the numbers you're talking about. And so we do affect, it's not particularly just people themselves. I mean, we're all carbon dioxide generators. So the only time we're not is when we're no longer here. So if we're alive and breathing, we are giving off carbon dioxide, taking in oxygen. So there's our carbon footprint is just us, and everything else is what we've added to it. So in our lives, building structures, cars, everything we do adds to that carbon footprint. So we're trying to reduce that. But I think man is a big factor. I don't know what's going to happen when you get past the capacity of the planet. So this is just a thing saying how is our world affected when our population is increasing dramatically. Although I see here that we talked about doubling the population in just 39 years, but we don't double it when we get down even by 2050. So I think there's going to be a slowdown of the population, although still 9 billion to a lot of people. Tree-filled neighborhoods. Lower levels of domestic violence, and I didn't give this a whole lot of understanding way back. This research was done in the late 70s, early 80s in Chicago. They did find that the communities, the projects in Chicago, those neighborhoods that had trees, many of the police agency in the various districts didn't really like to have landscaping and trees because they wanted to be able to see what was going on. So that open starkness really made it difficult. People didn't feel comfortable there. So trees do kind of get a comfort level that's just there. And I think that's innate us as humans. We kind of believe ourselves to be beyond the planet Earth. And I try to say that's kind of if we didn't have Earth, last night I watched, we have Friday nights, we have movie night at home, and I watched Apollo 13. And the crew takes off, and they have the failure, and they just go around the moon and come back. and then coming back to Earth, what a perfect place we have to live, planet Earth. So I'm trying to say, what do we do to protect this planet? This is it. I feel that Elon Musk trying to say, hey, we can go to Mars. It's a pretty hard place. There's really no other place than this. So we kind of think we're kind of separate. We're outside of the thing. No, we are part of it. So I think when we get into neighborhoods with trees, there's a feeling that we have. And you go to parks, go to neighborhoods. So, and also another thing, just in that whole social feeling, is that the communities feel safer. People are more social. Got a question?
Yeah, I have a comment. I read the book that Mr. Kelly, who was on the space station for a year.
Mm-hmm.
The primary danger in the space station daily is carbon dioxide.
Well, that was. I mean, bring that up, but in Apollo 13, they had to rig up a special device to try to bring the carbon dioxide down because it was building up to being toxic in Apollo 13 in returning. So yeah, carbon dioxide is toxic when it gets to a certain level. Fortunately here, we're not to that level. The quantity of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is mostly heat, what we call the greenhouse effect, heating up the planet. The sunlight comes through the atmosphere. When it tries that heat, builds up on the planet, tries to bounce back into the sky, the carbon dioxide holds it on the planet, warms the planet up. I went to a seminar 2 years ago in Stanford, and a professor there was a professor emeritus from UC Berkeley was talking about it, and they were talking in their meteorological classes of you can calculate by the distance the sun is from any kind of planet what the temperature should be, and by the distance that the Earth is from the sun, Earth would be at about 1 degree. That's below freezing, 1 degree. The atmosphere that we have in here traps heat, and that keeps us warmer. But it gets to a limit. You get too much of it. So trees, carbon dioxide is a factor. Tree-lined streets reduce stress. And I have to hand out in the back. If some of you picked it up. It's fairly a bunch of ones that looks like this. Lists a bunch of benefits of trees. And one of them is traffic calming. And when you have a canopied street, traffic will slow down naturally. It's like a tunnel. So you can't have a canopy over the street. Also, it makes it a more walkable community. If you have trees that go over the sidewalks, it feels just more comfortable to be there. People are more willing to be out among it in a tree-lined street than they are in busy or even open neighborhoods where there's no trees whatsoever. They just feel more comfortable. People stay inside, they won't be outside. And then trees decrease the need for medication. I didn't speak that, but research has shown it when people are in hospitals or when they are taking medication for some kind of chronic ailment, that if they're in a pleasant environment, they feel better and they heal quicker, and they reduce the use of the medication. And recovery times are sped up. I didn't realize it, but they did some kind of research where you had hospitals. If I don't go over to El Camino Hospital, in this part of Sunnyvale is in the El Camino Hospital District, that there's trees all over the place. And they make sure they have windows to look out on green space because people heal quicker when you have that. Never thought about that, me being an arborist and a horticulturist, never thought about that. I was worried about the trees themselves, not what they do to humans. Trees are important to human health, and we have in Sunnyvale, as far as the urban street trees, about 39,000. We probably have 10,000 park trees, and there's probably another, probably at least 80,000 private trees. Many of them being in residential areas, which I appreciate residential homes. But for every 100 trees, we remove 15 tons of carbon dioxide a year. And also, trees also remove other pollutants in the atmosphere. That's something I didn't realize too, but there was research done by the U.S. Forest Service that trees take in other things. So they do remove ozone, and they also trap particulates. We talk about around here we spend the air days, and usually that's triggered by the particulate matter in the air. And used to have what they call PM10, which is parts per million, or is in microns. So when you got up to 10, and that was a concern, we were about those bigger particles. Now they got it to 2.5. So when particles get to a certain percent of those small, and when you breathe in 2.5, you will just inhale it right into your lungs. So when those particles are small enough, you'll just go right into your lungs. So it can be an issue medically for those people who have respiratory conditions, and then if you don't, you still be promoting them. So that's what we call spare the air days, or the air district does that. But trees will remove those particulates. Some of it has to do with just slowing down the air. It's not like a filter. So the more trees we have, the better the atmosphere is. This is a big one, and this is kind of, it's funny when we listen to things over and how we're going to reduce our carbon footprint. Reduce. Trees don't reduce the carbon footprint, they eliminate it. They take in the carbon dioxide, they remove it from the air, take it out, and it's stored in its tissues. And as we as humans, the lowest we can get on reducing our carbon footprint is us. One person. Otherwise, you drive a car, you're anything, you can start adding carbon to the issue. And then the other thing too, when I say the trees rejuvenate the atmosphere, is that it keeps that oxygen-carbon dioxide balance there. The trees are putting out carbon dioxide. I tell people, you don't realize it, but you do need oxygen. Hold your breath, see how long that lasts. Your body will tell you real fast that you're running out of oxygen.
I got some off the web. I was studying something. The human race puts out 2.94 billion tons of carbon monoxide
This is just the people.
every day.
And this is just the people themselves.
Yeah.
Of that 7.6 billion people on the planet, that's just the people. Now, on the planet, we have, and I didn't realize this too, I saw a Discovery, on a Discovery Channel, or maybe it was on another channel where they had research that had been done, and there was a little expose, a 30-minute expose recorded at home. I don't know how to get all that on the computer, or if you have permission to do it. But their research had discovered, and estimating there are, they used to think there was billions of trees on the planet. Now they've estimated again by better satellite tracking, whatever it is, like 3 trillion trees on the planet. Those trees are doing this. Those trees are turning around the process. They're taking in that carbon dioxide, giving back the oxygen back into the air. So now we've lost, they say, and everybody thinks that, well, it's great we found that there are 3 billion trees, but we've taken away, that's 46% or less than there was, they estimated previously. We've been removing it either by making urbanization, we just take trees down because it's a better use of the land by taking all the trees down and putting in properties. You got to have someplace for the 7 billion people to be, so you have to take the trees down to do it. And the agricultural uses, there's places on the planet where they'll take down trees. Also the forestry, although most foresters are smart, they plant them because they know it's a crop, it's a long-term crop. If you're making paper, you're going to plant trees. Or if you're going to do logging, you're going to plant trees. You're not just log off and leave you with the trees to grow again. So they're constantly replanting trees. So the logging is a kind of long-term agriculture, even other uses. But when you clear land that was forested because you want to make it agriculture, either you're going to grow other crops or you're going to have cattle or something else on it that might have a better return, those are taking trees away. And those are carbon sinks. I heard about 2 weeks ago that the previous EPA director of the state of California, of the federal government, was proclaiming that more trees should be planted in the state of California, more trees planted over the planet, but California particularly, and other wetlands or anything would be carbon sinks, where that carbon dioxide is captured and put on the land. So, and then of course I'm just repeating here that how much CO2 just 100 trees are. So we're going to have a lot of CO2 removed, and put the trees we put back oxygen. Another one that I didn't realize until I did the research on it, but tree line sprays does slow down stormwater flow. It attenuates it. So when trees will capture and or even slow down water. So 100 mature trees will capture and slow down so that there's less demand on the sewer system. The storm drain system. if you look at a city, and probably people who have in single-family homes, you get more open lot that you can have watching water go into the land. But there's a lot of land that is impervious surface. We've got parking lots, we've got roads, we've got sidewalks, we've got right-of-ways, we've got patios, we've got rooftops. And water, unless you like a leaking house, most people don't want any of that stuff to leak anywhere. The engineers don't want to get underneath the asphalt, the roads will start to deteriorate, so you don't want when the alligator checking in roads, it'll start to fall apart. So no, we don't want water underneath our streets. We don't want water anyplace else to work. And so what do you do with it when it rains? And previously, the rains, when they rained here in Santa Clara Valley, prior to, I don't know what it was, prior to the 1800s when we started to colonize the area and make it agricultural, taking off most of the oak trees that we had natively put in orchards. But probably up until the 50s when we came in here and started to create Silicon Valley, where we converted it to defense and electronics and high tech, we had open land. And a half-inch rainfall, you didn't notice it. It just went on the land and it soaked into the ground. Now, a half-inch rainfall, you got to deal with it. When that half-inch rain goes off of rooftops, parking lots, streets, they put them into storm drains and they put them out in the creeks become just torrents because the water just has to blast through it scours out the creek banks as the water goes out to the bay. And so in the past, maybe a 1-inch rainfall hardly would do anything. Creeks don't even flow when the groundwater rose high enough that the water was actually underground, was actually coming out the creeks and flowing out. Over the surface drainage is not there. So anything to reduce or slow down that stormwater will save time and cost less for stormwater control. So I'm trying to promote to have more trees because it'll help that. Still, engineers are still worried about this. Right now we have a clean water requirement in Sunnyvale that we can't put stuff back in. You can't put anything in the storm drain but rainwater. Technically, you can't hose up your driveway and hose it into the street and hose it down the storm drain. That's technically illegal in Sunnyvale. Rainwater is the only thing supposed to go into a storm drain. And I don't know if people are complying with that, but when it does rain and the little rainfall we do get, it's a large quantity of water. It's got to be dealt with, and when it goes out to the streams, that's why they concrete in streams all the way to the bay. You don't have the natural stream flow like you normally would. Places where you'd have trees along stream banks don't exist anymore, they're concrete channels. So trees in the environment will slow that whole process down and they'll absorb water themselves. And the water's cleaner because it's filtered by the trees themselves. Air conditioning. People might not give this a whole lot of thought, but properly placed trees. I know the city of Sacramento and the Sacramento Tree Foundation is big up there. They're trying to make it multi-county, even going up into Placer County and El Dorado County, and trying to plant trees. Sacramento, it's promoted by the Sacramento Utility District, of growing trees in the right places to cut down the air conditioning demands in the Sacramento district that's underneath the purview of the Sunnyvale of the Sacramento Municipal Utility District, where they're the ones that provide the electricity. And so, of course, here just happened to be this little illustration that this is the south-facing. This, they say Galileo, they say north. This is south-facing, having trees that shaded in the summertime. They're deciduous, lose their leaves in the winter, and the sun shines through. And they do well on the fact that they will, let sun through in the winter when you want more of the sunlight in, shorter days, but you still want to have the sun. And also it does save on winter heating. You don't have as much in the way of heat loss too. Trees up around the property will even retain the heat that builds up, just like the atmosphere contains the heat on the planet. The trees around your home will keep it from being as cold. You have a completely clear open space, all that heat rises up away. So in January and February, it'll be much cooler with no trees around. Now here, I think this was a generic thing, but in the Bay Area, and definitely in Sunnyvale, and some issues in Sunnyvale of affordable housing, that the fact that trees do raise sale prices, I think, are kind of moot. When I saw, was it last year? Remember this? Or earlier this year, when a home in San Jose that caught on fire and half burned down, they were selling for $800,000 and they sold it. They actually had bidding war to sell it I presume they tore the house down and built on the property. But hey, so I don't think trees are really the factor driving the issue here. But it definitely will affect sales, because if you're in a really tree-lined street and big trees, it makes that home becomes more attractive to certain buyers. So for me, this would be more, currently, this would be days on the market. As you get more and more trees around the property, the days on the market might drop to 0. You might be almost sell it before you even get it listed, because we have such a out of balance housing demand right now. But they do add to property values. I think it's that human feeling you have that you just feel comfortable with trees. So trees around your property do make you feel just a psychological well-being. This research was done originally by Dr. Kathleen Wolf at the University of Washington in Seattle. She's a psychologist, and so she was interested in trees and how they affect commercial districts and people's concerns or desirability to shop in these areas. And she discovered that the people, they frequent these areas more. I don't know what, and I try to tell people, the only place I can really gauge that here, that we can say anything, can you imagine Murphy Street with no trees? Would it be no trees? I don't think so. I think it really makes the ambiance to the community to have trees on Murphy, that we can try to maintain them to keep that whole ambiance going. Hopefully when we finish Murphy as it goes through, if you went to the state of the city, you can see where Murphy will go through eventually, that they're going to continue that on. But tree-lined streets do increase sales. People want to shop there, they want to stay there longer, and they'll spend more for actually the products there, and they will spend more for parking. So if there are trees. If there are no trees, then people move on. I didn't know. Here's the kind of overall, over 100 trees over 40 years, so this is the life of the tree, although I try to get them to live longer in Sunnyvale if I can. But the benefits, when you put together the benefits of the trees return in energy saving, air quality, runoff, real estate values, the estimate is about $375,000 over the 40 years, and the cost of the pruning and the removal and put in sidewalk repair. And because we do have that, litter and other things, you might get a little bumps in the road by getting sued at times for whatever the reasons are related to the trees, have branches falling off cars, little issues like that from time to time. But that value adds up for 100 trees, it'd be this. So the payoff is still a positive benefit. Unfortunately, this dollar amount is, a lot of times it's hard to see. It's not, this is easy, because you're paying it. The income is saying, hey, what would life be like without trees? You would say, hey, this is the equivalent of what it would take, what the trees are doing for you. Create a legacy, plant trees. There was a different one on Berkeley. On the original thing, I put this in there. So that's just Google showing Murphy. And this was like last summer, 2017. So, but that's and I don't know when it was, and it wasn't full of people. I don't know what hour. The little Google car goes by to take the picture. They went by sometimes, there's nobody there. I don't know what hour that was. That's rare. I haven't really seen that. At night, maybe it's dark, 2 o'clock in the morning. But in the middle of the day, it's rare that I would see that there'd be no people there.
The Google erases people from the pictures.
I don't know.
That's what they do, so that's why.
Well, I don't know. I can see somebody trying to promote Sunnyvale won't not going to be there. I don't know if Google would care one way or the other. The bottom line, the quality of life depends on the benefits of trees. Benefits depend on healthy trees. So we'd like to have healthy trees that require quality care. And quality care depends on everybody and the resources. They're going to say that even elected representatives will be the ones making the decisions of where those resources go. So part of the reason to form today. What can you do? We do have a workforce management plan, so we do have a long-term goal. The issue is now getting the funding for that long-term goal. We do have pretty good maintenance for Sunnyvale. We're Tree City USA. We support SUFA, and SUFA supports us. And then I'll champion community trees. And SUFA's be doing that too. We do have even special trees in Sunnyvale. We're trying to put that together, or SUFA's trying to put that together, trees of distinction in Sunnyvale. So there's some pretty significant, magnificent trees. And so it's kind of a tree tour, a bicycle tree tour. So it kind of spread out a little bit, so people will go around. There are some magnificent trees in Sunnyvale, and we try to promote more of them. And I just give recognition here that this is the Center for Urban Research, that I can put most of the slides together. It wasn't me. I just stuck a few things in there. That's it. So, questions?
On average, what does it cost the city to install a new street tree?
If there's nothing there,
Yeah.
and you start with a brand new tree, we're probably talking about $350, $400, depends on what you got to do. We've gone into places where people have moved into property, their previous owners at some point in time submitted a parkway strip. And so we take out concrete to get the dang tree, you can't get it in the parkway strip. Others, if it's just open space and we can plant, probably in the category of $300, $350 per plant tree. Now that all comes from several things. The tree itself, they're going up in price. When I first started in the business, we're talking about $20 a tree wholesale. Fortune 50, 60. So the trees are more expensive themselves. And then the process of planting them and caring for them. And the care, too, is getting them established. Because it takes about 3 years from the time you plant a young tree to get it rooted in and established so that it can really make it with what they call landscape maintenance level maintenance and irrigation. So you have to pay attention to watering. And we used to, Bobby, in the 90s, before the dot-com bust, because after the 90s, we've been up and down budget-wise in the city. The council has had to figure out when you have recessions and everything else, where's the money go, or not go, if you don't have it. So about 2005, we stopped having a program to water the newly planted trees. We're relying on the residents themselves to water those trees. So it's a little bit of an education. If you've had a tree that's been there 30 years, you take it down, plant a new tree, you haven't watered the tree in the last 30 years because you haven't had to, but now you got this young little tree that you have a little bit of a struggle on that. But the planting, and then also another thing we do, I got started because when I first came here, I was a street tree manager and a concrete maintenance manager. I did, my charge was, by the Director of Public Works, he loved the trees. He said that really makes Sunnyvale, the trees really is what people see. Because, all in parks people say, hey, it's a park, library, hey, it's a library. No, nobody drives to Sunnyvale to find the library. If you're here, you want to use it. Nobody drives here to find the park. San Francisco, you might have Golden Gate, you might go there. You go to New York, you might go to Central Park, but nobody comes to Sunnyvale to find the parks. So the parks, they don't like that. I'm a park guy now, so that's fine. They see the streets. So one of those streets, they said, I got to make them safe. And so I got charged with taking care of trees and probably of all the sidewalk damage we have is probably 90% of it's tree roots. So how do you live with both of those kind of things? So when we plant new trees, we put in root areas when we plant. So that's another part of the process that drives that price up. And then this is labor to do it, all the equipment and time. Probably $350.
So if the sidewalk strip is cemented over by a previous owner, will the city pay to break it up?
Well, I'm a tree lover hugger, so I would go do that. I've had previous city managers say, no, we want to have the homeowner take it out, and that's a little harder struggle when somebody comes in to say, okay, even if I went and rented something to get it out, then how do I do this chunky concrete? Now, fortunately for us, we've got the equipment, we can go ahead and do it much more quickly. I haven't been any kind of proposal to say, should we charge people for that? I don't know, because we don't charge them for planting the tree itself. So right now, it hasn't been that frequent that every place I go to, I have to take the cement out, but I will take that concrete out.
Oh, good.
Anyone else? Want the microphone? It might be better. Everyone can hear.
A couple of questions. One back again on the strip by the street.
Mhm.
I have, somebody before I bought the house poured concrete there. And I've probed the city a couple of times about removing that and putting a tree there. I'd really like to do it. If you could provide the service and we had to pay something for it, I would be glad to do that.
I wish you'd start advertising something like that. Now, first of all, at minimum, we would probably take out enough. We take out probably about 6 feet of the concrete so we can have room for the tree. But we tell people we usually need 5 feet each side of the tree so they have plenty of space for the tree. Because the tree needs oxygen. The tree is a living thing like us, requires oxygen. It's fortunate that everything that's got green on it, has chlorophyll in it, is photosynthesizing and is putting oxygen back. And we don't put oxygen back, so we're not in that case. But trees do require oxygen. So having the whole underground portion sealed off is not good because it's hard to get the oxygen. Also hard to get water in there. So we would probably take out at least a 6 or 7 foot strip. Now, if you want to take out the whole parkway, then that would be another story. But, I haven't thought about how that would be done because I think you need to get contractors to go ahead and do that. You pay somebody to come and just take your concrete away. I know there's ads for people who do paving and want to put pavers in and all that kind of stuff. So there's companies that will take that concrete out away for you.
Okay, and then second, it seems like Sunnyvale, there's a lot of trees in Sunnyvale, but so many of them are barely bigger than bushes. You go down whole neighborhoods with just tiny little trees.
And it depends on the neighborhood. I agree.
And, but yet neighboring cities, it seems like, you cross the boundary and it's a difference between day and night in terms of the size of the trees and the amount of canopy coverage, especially between Sunnyvale and Mountain View. It's very pronounced.
And then from Mountain View to Palo Alto. Let's see it again. For me, the issue that I have is right-of-way space. I have 2 conditions on right-of-way space. The right-of-way space is that part of your property that has been, if you're own residential property, that is granted as public right-of-way. Your property in most cases goes to the center line of the street. You've granted a right-of-way from the center line of the street to your quote property line. Everything from the property line in is 100% your responsibility. Everything in the public right-of-way is still your property. You just granted this right-of-way to go through your property. That's how you get to your property. The street goes past it and all the public utilities that come to it. And so that